Hello, YouTube. I'm Vince White. I'm an employment attorney, and on this channel, we generally answer publicly posted questions from YouTube users getting focused answers they need from an employment attorney. Today, however, we're talking about the state of office life in 2023. This is September, around the end of September in 2023, and office life has gotten weird. There was, of course, a pandy. We can't say the full word because then YouTube freaks out and does weird things to the video if you use that word. I don't know why. I mean, I don't know what else we're supposed to call it, but we'll call it a pandy, okay? Um, anyways, I love how there's like these weird political fights like over there, and I'm sitting here like office life. It's weird now, and YouTube's like, got the boot heel on my throat, being like, I think you're using words that might mean you disagree with someone in the government. And I'm like, oh, heaven forbid. I'm not involved in that fight. That's not my job. Uh, but they're still like actively, boot heel on the throat like of this channel, being like, don't post those things. Okay, that's not what we do here. We don't do that here. um, but I am concerned by how aggressive you are about policing speech. That's concerning to me, but okay. Anyways, I digress. Um, so we had a pandy. It led to a revolution in remote work. Everybody kind of found out that they could work remotely. A lot of people moved all over the world to work remotely in beautiful or more affordable locales where they actually wanted to be. People moved to be with their family. People moved to Belize. People moved to Bora Bora. Countries offered visas specifically to allow you to come work remote in their country. Like, it was amazing, right? People built out home offices, Zoom suites similar to this. I mean, I moved to rural New Hampshire and took up residence in a hobby farm, exiting the decaying corpse of New York City after 15 years. And the tax savings were epic. Epic. Tax savings made for a free farm. Like, that's, and more. Like, that's how epic the tax savings were. Now, all this happened, and then the pandy never really ended, but we all just decided it did. And everybody went, back to going outside, and mostly people don't wear masks anymore, and everybody kind of gave up on the, I guess they can't even talk about that. I'm not going to use that word either, because that's also on my list of things to not say. Anyways, pandy's over, as far as anyone's concerned, right? And God, it's so weird being like on the like not involved in politics in any way, but like getting the fallout from like the speech that you can't use. It's very strange. I got to tell you, it's very strange. Um, so okay, we wrapped up the pandy, and employers started to be like, "Hey, some of you have to come back to work. You got to come back." Um, and that was weird because people moved all over the country, and it's created a lot of fallout, and a lot of employers proved that remote work was viable. So we did a lot of reasonable accommodations for remote work for people with a variety of different immune diseases, anxiety, anxiety conditions, a lot, right? There's a lot of medical issues that you can have, which remote work is a reasonable accommodation for. Even like bowel issues, digestive issues, right? These are all things a lot of employers don't really make access to the restrooms all that available, right? Like it's on the other side of the floor. It's 2 floors down. Okay, well, that's not going to work for somebody with a very serious case of IBS, right? Like that could be a real problem. It's not sufficient. And the employer looks at you stupidly and like, well, you can't work remotely. I don't know, man. I think the ADA says my client can, the Americans with Disabilities Act, to be clear, because you're not offering accommodations that allow my client with her or his disability to come into the workplace and work like you want them to, then you need to accommodate them, right? So all that's going on. That's the lay of the land. In the meantime, a lot of these employers downsized their office space, which led to issues like doom loops in cities like New York City and San Francisco. And that's all playing out in the background, and we don't need to get into that, right? I wonder if I can say doom loop. Did I just get in trouble? Did this video just get restricted because I said doom loop? Are we allowed to acknowledge that coastal cities are having a real estate crisis? A commercial real estate crisis, to be clear. I don't know if we're allowed to say that. Sometimes YouTube gets really weird with what you are and are not allowed to say, if I'm being honest. I'm a little salty about it today because YouTube did some things to the channel recently that were like, just like, you should have known the magic words. You didn't engage in right speak, so we need to punish you. Okay. I'm sorry that I didn't get the list of words. I didn't know. So these employers downsize and they take smaller footprints. And then after they take smaller footprints, they enact policies like everybody's got to come back to work, but maybe only 3 days a week. And so you get weird situations. Like my buddy, who's the CEO, he asked me to Zoom earlier this morning. He was like, hey, I got some questions for you. Can we hop on a Zoom? And he pops up on my screen, right? And he looks like shit. CEO of publicly traded company, a multinational organization with a grainy video feed and no lights. I'm like, what's going on here? Are you on the run? Like, are you on the lam? What's happening? Why? What is this like weird shabby situation that you're in? And why don't you have like an HD webcam with like a ring light and everything else, right? He's like, oh yeah, this is my office, but we do office shares now. So people use my office when I'm not here. I'm only, in the office 4 days a week, and somebody stole my webcam and my ring lights and my microphone. What? You're a CEO of like a Fortune 1000 multinational corporation. If you do things that BlackRock and Vanguard don't like for your publicly traded company, they call you. Like, you change the course of share price to such an extent for some entities in your field that the richest organizations in the world will be like, no, you made a mistake. Take it back. Right? Like that's I'm not puffing this guy up, but he matters, right? People's lives, including his employees, but also just investors and retirees, because there's a lot of companies, a lot of entities like pension authorities, retirement plans invested in his company, or in grouped investments like mutual funds that also hold his company, right? His decisions change the course of people's lives. And this mofo can't get an office to himself. Like, the amount of confidential information, his employees, his leases, his company's technology. I think they deal with some IPOs of smaller entities, right? The amount of confidential information that crosses this fella's desk. He's not, I wouldn't call him a big boy in the financial markets, but maybe he will be someday. Like, he matters today. And he can't get an office? Pretty sure the man makes $450K, right? And he can't get an office? How cheap, how stupidly penny-wise, pound-foolish is the parent entity of this multinational corporation that they downscaled the office space they keep for their company, then required everybody to come in, and didn't set aside a specific office for their CEO, their CEO of U.S. operations. It's laughable. But it's also, it's strange in another way, right? Like, it's not just unprofessional. It's not just unsafe. It's not just a poor approach to confidentiality, right? Like, none of this he doesn't have a filing cabinet that locks. First off, filing cabinets that lock, those locks are always nonsense. Like, that's all silly anyways. You need more than that. But he doesn't even have that. Like, his documents get left out on an L-shaped desk, and on Friday when he's not in, someone from HR is in there just working in his office, seeing everything. probably getting their dirty little fingers going through his papers. Because why wouldn't you? That'd be fascinating, right? And not for nothing. Also, this person's clearly a low-level enough employee that they felt the need to steal his ring light, his microphone, and his HD webcam, which I would think almost any employee in this company would get for free from the company, right? Like, this is crazy. So all of that is extra stupid. Just like really silly. Penny wise, pound foolish, like mistakes are being made here. But there's also something else to it. This is New York City where this person works, right? So it's hard to get around. The subways are, they take a while. Certain times of day, they're packed. They don't always run. Sure, you can pay for a taxi. Sure, you can afford a taxi. Taxis aren't that great in New York. The Uber situation, it ebbs and flows. But, usually you can get an Uber. But you wouldn't necessarily want to, like, run home from the office before you have to go out in the evening to do something. Like meet, I don't know, some kind of vendor, meet other companies, important business dinners, right? Or even see your friends. So what you got now is a situation where you can go to the gym. Maybe you want to go to the gym after work, right? Got a situation where 3-4 years ago, he would have just left his gym clothes, his after hours clothes, his umbrellas, his rain slicker, right? Like all the things you need for an unpredictable life in New York City would have been at his office, in addition to at whatever apartment he lived in, right? And he would just have 2 sets. That's how it's done in New York. You have 2 sets. Like, oh, God, it started raining the other day. I'll throw on my raincoat and get my umbrella, right? And then, you wear them home, and the next day you bring them back in, and they live in your office. He doesn't have an office. He has an office, but he doesn't have an office where he can leave things because people take them. Because other people are in and out, right? So it'd be weird for him to leave his, like, gym shorts, right? That'd be weird. His gym socks. Like, people are like, oh, well, I got to work in here with the CEO's gym socks. This is gross. I don't like this. So now he's got to pack everything on his back every single day. And that's basically this weird worst case scenario where you're going into the office, but you've been stripped of whatever perceived prestige existed before as a CEO having an office. Because you don't have an office. You have a room you get to use 4 days a week, but it's not an office because you don't get to leave things there. Other people are in there. There's no privacy. There's no expectation of privacy. There's nothing. You have nothing, right? There's no prestige or value to that office. You're just some guy with a nice paycheck who gets to make big decisions that impact a lot of people, but there's no payback for that. There's no upside, right? And I don't think this is tenable. I don't think we can go on like this. Like, can some employees share offices? Sure. Can all employees share offices? Definitely not. And these companies are not figuring this out. Like, it's bizarre to watch. Like, you have to be back in the office. Okay. Why? We need you here. Okay. Why? We don't care. Do it. Okay. Well, I want my paycheck, so I guess I'll do it. But I need an office then, right? There's like minimums. There's minimum standards of like decency that matter. This is just very strange. It's bizarre to have these conversations with people. I don't value New York City office at all. Like the office I have, you've seen it in the videos now. It's trash. It's a terrible office. I hate it. But I'm not going to pay for a nicer office because, New York City doesn't matter like it used to matter. I'm just going to minimize my time there, right? But that's not true for this guy. Like, he's there week after week making decisions that massively, massively impact the wealth and valuation of his company that he works for as CEO, right? U.S. CEO. Get this boy in office. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, what? I'm not making fun of my buddy, but like, what are we doing? This is insane. It's one way or the other. You can't have it both ways. You must come in, but we don't pay for offices like that anymore. That doesn't make sense. Don't be stupid. Get your head out of your booty, employers. Enough of this. You're gonna have people work from home. Just have to accept that. You're not gonna have the pull to keep employees forced into these cities that are not doing well. Employee take home is amazing in certain parts of the country, but if you make them live in some of the coastal cities, it's not amazing anymore. It's hard to live on. It's hard to get ahead on. Like living in New York City, there's that study we talked about on the channel. If you moved from New York City to certain cities in Texas, and I think it was in the study, the person made $600K a year. The shift from New York City to those certain cities in Texas, in large metropolitan cities, cosmopolitan cities, that person pocketed an extra $260K a year. Like, we're not talking about a pittance here. And it's not like New York can be like, oh, but we use that tax money to help people. They don't. They don't help the homeless in New York. They don't provide real schools for urban communities. Like, if they help people with the tax money, people might say, well, I'm doing a good thing. But they don't. They don't. I mean, African American communities in New York cannot get a real school system. New York City is racist. Like, it does not provide real schooling on the same level for certain communities. And yet they tax like that. It's very frustrating to me. Anyways, I digress again. Somebody get this guy in office. What are we doing? These employers got to make a move here. It's crazy. Like, subscribe, comment down below. It helps me to help more people like you. Sorry about my rant.